The agenda this week examined the cancellation of 4 regional chair elections in Ontario, the rise of e-voting in the province. We cast our minds back a quarter century to the era of Rae Days and the social contract, and assessed efforts to ensure food safety in the era of agricultural biotechnology. The agenda's Week in Review begins with a conversation from before the province won its appeal this week, with our debate about the controversy over cutting Toronto City Council. What do you make of where we're at right now?
It's crazy. It's completely unnecessary. It's an invented crisis. It's based upon a whole series of statements that are taken as dogma by the faithful, lining up behind 4, but have no actual factual basis to them, that Toronto City Council is dysfunctional, or any more so than any other elected body, that it's the job of the province to fix it if it were, rather than the voters at the next election, that this is going to fix it, or that if it was a fix, it has to be done right now, this week, this minute. It's all of it bogus, and on top of all of that, when he couldn't get his way, he starts invoking the notwithstanding clause to push through legislation that had otherwise been found unconstitutional. It's a mess.
More on that clause as we go on. Deb Hutton, where are you on this?
Well, I'm going to disagree with Andrew.
Just a little, I suspect.
So we have a government elected just a few months ago to bring in some fiscal sanity to the province, which I think includes the municipalities as creatures of the province. They moved forward with legislation that was legitimately challenged, and they are responding legitimately and saying, in this case, we believe the legislature has the right to make a decision about how big Toronto City Council will be.
So the institutions are responding and performing as planned.
It's a temporary measure, as we all know, in the Charter of Rights that governments have the ability to use.
Karen Stintz, where are you?
Well, at this point, I think, I'm more pragmatic. It's all happened. And if we're going to actually have an election on October 22nd, then the government needed to use the notwithstanding clause, because there is no way that an election could have taken place unless there was some certainty about the number of wards. And so, I think Deb is right. I'll take a step back. I don't actually think it needed to be done right now. Certainly the government didn't campaign on it. I don't think we're going to see a nickel that's saved by it. But the reality is he was well within his rights to do it. A little bit of consultation may have been nice, but it wasn't there. And, the court made a decision and the government reacted. And if we're going to actually say, if we are going to have an election, a municipal election, this is the only way it's going to happen.
Patricia Wood.
I think I'm a little closer to Andrew. I think it's reckless from top to bottom. It demonstrates a lack of commitment to respecting deliberative democracy in terms of city council, and then on towards the democratic conventions of the use of the notwithstanding clause. And it's also for absolutely no good reason. And the government couldn't even bring a reason when they were challenged to court. So to do something so reckless that opens up so many crises for no reason except that I guess the province is still afraid of the City of Toronto is not a good path for a democracy.
Mark Toohey.
Well, for something to be reckless, there has to be some great peril. And there is no peril here. I mean, this is something that the government has decided to do. I will grant you that they never campaigned on this, and it was a surprise, and I think some people are not that happy with it, even supporters of the Fords. But I think it's something that needed to be done, and quite frankly, as much as it wasn't done in a very efficient or effective way, it's probably the only way you could do it. You can't do it after the election.
Why not?
Because then the council, even the lefties on council have told me that they'd be fighting at each other's throats for 4 years to try to jockey for position. So you can't do that. You can't wait till the end of a 4-year mandate, because they won't be able to get anything through Queen's Park at the end of their mandate. It has to be done now. The City Council will never agree with it. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. You just got to do it. And that's assuming that you like the idea. I do. Reducing the size of council is important. It will make it more functional, but it's not the only thing that should be done, and it may not be the first thing that needed to be done, but something has to be done, because it doesn't work down there.
We have had all of the advisors now advise, and we leave it to the minister, the former minister, to hear all that advice and render her verdict.
Well, I think I can take from each side of the table. Yes, the Premier had every right to do what he did. But I'll take it from a different practical perspective. As someone like you, Karen, who have run for politics, it's a big decision to run. and you plan your life around it. You may quit your job, you get support, you start raising money. To be told in the middle of a campaign that that seat doesn't exist anymore, and if you want to run, you'll have to run over there, which you don't have a chance, or you never planned for it, that's just completely unfair. The second thing, I would disagree with Mark. I think they could have done it after this election. And they wouldn't have had any legal challenges, really, and they would have gotten it through, and it would have been more democratic.
Listen, in Niagara, we have 125 politicians for 450,000 people. We are significantly overgoverned.
How many municipalities do you have there?
12 municipalities.
12 municipalities?
Yes.
In Niagara region for 450,000 people?
450,000 people, 125 political leaders that I think what we need to look at is what Premier Ford has done in Toronto. And I don't disagree with what Chris has said in terms of eliminating a level of government, but quite frankly, it needs to be done in a more collegial way. It needs to be less parochial and more Niagara-centric when we think about that. And whether it's eliminating regional or eliminating municipal, it's eliminating one level of government that simply isn't necessary in duplicating their efforts, duplicating their administration, and duplicating the tax. I mean, I've run my campaign and I focus on keeping low taxes. I focus on keeping a business approach, trying to bring jobs to Niagara. And to do that, we don't need 125 politicians, period.
No, but we do need regional government to manage regional-wide services. I mean, economies of scale would suggest or would demonstrate that we don't need each municipality going back to having its own police force, its own fire force, those kinds of things. So amalgamation is coming. What it looks like, I'm not sure, but I suspect, I would bet my bottom dollar that we will see the end of York Region, the end of Durham, the end of Peel, and the amalgamation of a number of those municipalities. And this may be part of the reason that we see mayors in Peel agreeing to disagree on the chair and the role of the chair. Because if we don't have a very strong voice at the table, we won't be able to oppose what the province is pushing down the pike. And we won't get the best deal for the residents of Aurora, Newmarket, and the rest of York Region in the future.
How do you see your role as regional chair right now? What do you see as your mission?
Well, the regional municipality in Niagara provides the majority of services, whether it be policing, whether it be ambulance service, garbage collection, water, wastewater, main roads, are all regional services. The municipalities have some roads and some water service, but typically that's just Parks and Rec is left in the municipal purview. So pulling it together, and fire, by the way, pulling it together into one level of government makes a lot more sense. Downsizing the number of politicians makes it a lot easier to get decisions made and work done, and quite frankly, less cost.
If you don't mind, it shouldn't be about how easy it is to make decisions. Democracy is inherently messy. If you're consulting with the public, it is inherently messy. And I find there's this overwhelming sense from the blue team that everything needs to be quiet, we need to pour oil on the water, that we can't have any turmoil. Quite frankly, good community consultation should be tumultuous. There should be strong debate. That's what democracy is. It is a very powerful and it can be a messy thing. I don't for a minute necessarily think that fewer politicians makes for better government, makes for better decisions. I'll tell you what it does do, makes it harder for the public to talk to the decision makers who sit at this very important table, the council table.
This debate that we're having gets at the core debate of online voting that's been happening for 20 years, and that is accessibility and turnout on the one hand, and security on the other. And the reality is that both of these things need to be balanced. We need to make sure that we are maintaining electoral integrity, and so one of the things maybe we'll get to is Alex and I both advocate for putting in guidelines or standards that municipalities could follow to enhance their technical knowledge and give them a better ability to vet vendors, and also ensure that we're holding things to a higher standard. On the other hand, if the government, the provincial government were to take away the ability for municipalities to do this, they could be really affecting turnout. As society changes and we increasingly, adopt technology, it may be less of a question, do we need online voting to encourage people to vote, or do we need online voting to keep people voting, to retain current voters?
Because if we don't offer that as an option,
turnout could continue to fall.
Yes. That is a concern, wouldn't you agree? I mean, we do have to do something to, I shouldn't say it, I should ask it. Do we not have to do something to ensure that turnout doesn't continue to fall to alarmingly low levels?
Well, again, it comes down to this question of at what cost. So if you were to imagine a situation where there was a magic box that just produces a result, and then we have to form a government based on what that magic box said, that's not giving us the confidence that the Supreme Court says that we need to have in the institution. So we really have to look at what it is that we're trading off for the adoption of the technology. We don't have to take on new technology. People seem to view paper ballot voting as kind of simple in the sort of naive way, when in fact it's simple in the elegant way, the design elegance format. So there's this argument, counter-argument that says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Should the provincial government pass a law saying, until we are 100% sure of the integrity of an e-voting or i-voting system, we're not going to allow municipalities to do it anymore?
Well, let me tell you about the Municipal Elections Act. In the section about alternative methods, it doesn't even name online voting. It names telephone voting and vote by mail. But the act was written in the Windows 95 era, right? Online voting hadn't happened yet anywhere, as far as I can tell. So at the time, they weren't really thinking about this. This was before September 11th, before Florida 2000, before HAVA and the American Election Assistance Commission and Hacking Democracy and all of these big bang events that have shaped our understanding of elections and cybersecurity.
Would you be prepared to see that kind of a law passed until every I was dotted and T crossed to people's satisfaction?
Well, I would say to you, Steve, look at what's happening right now when the province is trying to dip their hands into municipal business. Yeah, so I mean, I take Alex's point. However, I favor the language of alternative voting for a few reasons. And I mean, Elections Ontario did a report in 2011 when they were considering online voting. And I think it's called alternative voting technologies, actually. So that language has been carried and is relatively current. But I think it's important because municipalities, sure, they're creatures of the province, but they should have relative autonomy to be able to, carry out elections as they see fit. And it's important to remember that there is vast variance in terms of the characteristics of municipalities, their resources, their geography. So what works in one may not work in another.
We were incensed at the fact that we were dragged into the McDonald block on April the 5th in an open forum with our employers. This is the man bites dog kind of a story. A socialist government basically calls in our employers to say to us, hey, you're going to have to open up your collective agreement and we're going to have the employers here tell us how to do it. I mean, put the shoe on the other foot. Imagine if this was a Tory government and they called in the corporate sector and says, we're going to raise corporate taxes here, but here's the unions, they're coming in to tell us and advise us about how much the corporate taxes should be increased. I mean, that's the equivalence of what happened to us. So we were livid with the party all along for daring to open up our collective agreements. And Floyd told us, by the way, all along that we would never bring in legislation on a mandatory basis to open up collective agreements. But that's what he did in the end when he didn't get the settlement.
Karen, I hear you trying to get in.
Yeah, but think about how we felt as the first socialist government, and we came in with a $10 to $12 billion deficit. We came in with this idea we could do things with the insurance, we could do this, we could do that, and we couldn't. It was very devastating for those of us who wanted to help and to be there as a socialist government and unable to do it.
Well, 25 years ago, in fact, 25 years ago this week, we did a little program here on TVO called Fourth Reading, which was all about, it was a weekly Queen's Park show. And here's how we reported on what was going on 25 years ago. Go ahead, Sheldon, roll it.
Bill 48, you've heard a lot about it lately. It's intended to cut $2 billion from the public sector payroll now that the social contract talks with the public sector collapsed a couple of weeks ago. Now, Bill 48 will freeze wages, impose unpaid time off, and threaten unilateral action if unions and employers can't reach their own deals by the 1st of August.
I want to say categorically that our government finds any prospect of overriding collective agreements painful and difficult. But our pain and our difficulty are nothing compared to what the alternative would mean for this province.
This Premier has chased his dream of some sort of social contract. Order. This government is now forced yet again into legislative action which is likely to be unworkable if it ever has to be implemented.
I don't know who the guy was at the beginning of that shot, but you looked pretty good 25 years ago.
Thanks, Steve.
Did you, I mean, once the negotiations had broken down, did you not see any alternative to bringing in a law that would impose this settlement?
No, we didn't want to impose it, obviously. But once the negotiations broke down, that was an invitation to bring in legislation. What was the alternative? There's a lot of critics of the social contract, but they don't really deal with an $18 billion deficit. And so I certainly didn't see any alternative to it.
Did you feel disappointed in the union movement that they didn't cut you a little slack because you were a social democratic government?
Yes, I felt very, very disappointed because I felt, tried everything we could to negotiate it, and it just fell apart. So, I mean, that's up to them. But at the end of the day, yeah, I felt that there should have been a little more understanding of the predicament. But, you know, I've had union leaders say to me, the private sector defaults on debt sometimes, why don't you? I mean, silly stuff like that indicated there was very little understanding of how severe the economic problem was.
Why do you think the union leadership was not prepared to cut the social democratic government of the day more slack in getting to a negotiated settlement?
I think there'd been in the public sector a tendency when you couldn't get agreement to go to arbitration. There'd been a lot of arbitrated settlements, and that was the default position. And often worked out, you know, I remember saying to Ted Roscoe one morning, you know, last year when we couldn't agree on you know, you wanted 10%, we didn't want to give it to you, and we, you know, it went to arbitration, you got 15. I said, I just wanted that 5 back. And he said, it doesn't work that way. And I said, I'm painfully aware of it doesn't work that way.
The public debate on GMOs is definitely unfortunate when they do provide the amount of benefits that they provide and the safety that's there, which is attested by Health Canada, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, governments around the world. Gene editing will certainly undergo a similar debate, but I think the same principle stands.
So no labeling then?
I think labeling should be focused on health and safety, which this is not. And you don't want to clutter up labels for the consumer. That doesn't give them information that helps them make safe and nutritious choices. It just gives them more things they have to try to sift through on a label.
Let me get Lucy's take on the whole issue of labeling on gene-edited foods and whether we ought to take the same approach we did with GMOs.
Well, absolutely. These are genetically engineered organisms, and for 20 years, polls consistently show that over 80% of Canadians want to know where genetically engineered, genetically modified foods are in grocery store shelves for whatever reason that they want to have that information.
Do you think consumers, Crystal, want that information?
Well, I'm going to argue both sides just to be difficult and say consumers want transparency and they want accuracy in their food. So I am seeing some pushback to labels now, sub-in, gluten-free, non-GMO, you know, the list goes on, that Canadians are saying, why are you putting GMO-free water and charging me more? So we are seeing a little pushback there. The call for openness and transparency, absolutely. The challenge is when we're dealing with these technical topics, to Lucy's point, yes, 80% say they want labels on genetically engineered foods. 80% also say they want labels of foods that contain DNA, which is everything, obviously. So, you know, we're dealing with these technical topics and how much space do you put on the label. So my business at the Centre for Food Integrity is let's have an open, honest, transparent conversation with Canadians and give them credible information, how much you can achieve on a label when we're in this skeptical consumer era of I don't want to be duped, don't put a label on to charge me more.
No, I get you, but I guess we should hear from Stuart on this. Stuart, I gather this is called absence labeling. People don't only want to know what's in the product, they want to know what's not in the product. What's your view on whether that ought to be done for gene-edited foods?
Well, when you ask consumers to think of a label and ask them what piece of information is lacking, only about 3% bring up GM. So I think it's quite clear that consumers really just want safe, nutritious, and cheap food. And Canada's done an exceptionally good job of providing that. And so providing additional labeling information really doesn't get to the point. I think if they're going to label foods through genome editing, then they need to label all the organic foods and put the process on there and say whether they were developed by chemical or radiation mutagenesis as well. And then you've got a level playing field so consumers can make a decision based on information.
Lucy, is that a fair point?
Well, no, it's not. I mean, organic production is already got its own label, but more importantly, I don't think we can have a genuine discussion about educating consumers or public information if, in fact, the products of the technology are hidden from view. And this is particularly stark at the moment when Canadians are eating the world's first genetically modified animal, a GM Atlantic salmon, and many people don't know that it's on the market. No one knows where it is. And it's just clear that people have been asking continually for this labeling. It's just one way that the technology is hidden from the public, or a public debate is being obstructed rather than enabled.
And that is the Agenda's Week in Review for this Friday, September 21st, 2018. You can see all of those conversations in their entirety at tvo.org, our website, on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/theagenda, and on our Twitter feed. That's twitter.com/theagenda.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.